Deep in the Alaskan wilderness, a grizzly bear discovers a fresh caribou carcass. 800 pounds of muscle and bone approaches the kill, anticipating an easy meal. Then something impossible happens. A creature barely larger than a house cat emerges from the forest. 55 pounds of fury. Instead of fleeing, it charges directly at the bear, snarling with unimaginable aggression. The grizzly hesitates. The tiny predator holds its ground. This isn't fiction, it's documented reality. Wolverines routinely confront predators 10 times their size and somehow survive. Tonight, we're analyzing one of nature's most unlikely confrontations. How does a 50-pound mustelid intimidate an 800-pound apex predator? Could a wolverine actually defeat a grizzly bear? The answer defies everything you think you know about size advantage. Meet the champions. Before we stage our ultimate showdown, we need to understand exactly what these animals are. First, the heavyweight champion. The grizzly bear, technically a subspecies of brown bear and one of North America's largest terrestrial predators. Grizzlies exhibit remarkable size variation depending on geography and food availability. Inland populations averaging 400 to 600 pounds inhabit forests and mountain regions where food sources are dispersed. These bears live lean, burning calories through constant movement across rugged terrain. Coastal populations tell a completely different story, where salmon runs occur, particularly Alaska and coastal British Columbia. Grizzlies access concentrated protein sources. These bears can exceed 1,000 pounds, becoming biological tanks covered in muscle and fat. Average grizzlies measure 6 to 8 feet long from nose to tail. They stand approximately 3.5 feet at the shoulder on all fours. Reared up on hind legs, they tower over 7 feet tall. Their physical attributes are genuinely intimidating. Claws extending 3 to 4.5 inches function like biological daggers. Powerful forelimbs can break caribou spines with single strikes. Bite force reaches 1,200 pounds per square inch in some individuals, sufficient to crush bone and puncture thick hide. Fur ranges from dark brown to nearly black, often with lighter tips creating a distinctive grizzled appearance. That's where their common name originates. Despite their massive size, grizzlies are surprisingly fast. They achieve 35 miles per hour in short bursts when chasing prey. That's faster than any human could possibly run. Now meet the challenger. The wolverine, nature's most disproportionately aggressive mammal. Wolverines measure approximately 3 to 4 feet long and weigh around 55 pounds. That's roughly the size of a medium dog, a cocker spaniel or beagle. They're muscular but elongated, with low-slung bodies built for moving through deep snow. Their fur is exceptional, thick, oily, frost-resistant. It repels moisture and provides insulation in temperatures plunging below -40 degrees. Coloration is typically dark brown with distinctive cream or gold stripes across the shoulders and flanks. Here's a critical point often misunderstood. Wolverines are not small bears. They belong to family Mustelidae, which includes weasels, badgers, ferrets, otters, and minks. Among terrestrial mustelids, wolverines are the largest species, and mustelids possess a reputation. They're consistently aggressive, fearless, and disproportionately powerful for their size. Honey badgers, for instance, routinely confront lions. Weasels kill rabbits 5 times their weight. This family evolved an attitude problem. Wolverines took that attitude and amplified it to absurd levels. Shared territory. Understanding where these animals live is crucial to determining how often they actually encounter each other. Grizzly bears are exclusively North American. Historically, they ranged across the entire western United States from Mexico to Alaska. Human expansion decimated those populations. Today, grizzlies occupy Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Alaska, and much of Canada, British Columbia, Alberta, Yukon, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and Manitoba. They inhabit remarkably diverse environments. Dense forests, open prairies, alpine meadows above 8,000 feet elevation, river valleys. Anywhere sufficient food exists, grizzlies adapt. Wolverines occupy an even wider global range. Western Russia and Siberia. Nordic Europe, including Norway, Sweden, and Finland. And critically, North America, northern United States, Alaska, and most of Canada. They prefer boreal forests, subarctic regions, and alpine environments. They need vast territories. Individual wolverines patrol areas exceeding 200 square miles. They're built for traveling immense distances through harsh terrain where most predators cannot efficiently operate. Here's the critical factor. Wolverine and grizzly habitats overlap extensively. In Alaska, northern Canada, and the northern Rocky Mountains, these species share territory constantly. Encounters aren't just possible, they're inevitable. What they eat and why it matters. Understanding diet is essential to predicting confrontation outcomes. These animals compete for the same resources. Grizzlies are omnivores with remarkably flexible diets. They consume berries, fruits, grasses, roots, and various vegetation throughout much of the year. They dig for ground squirrels and rodents. They hunt larger prey when opportunities arise: deer, caribou, elk, moose calves, even adult moose in some cases. Coastal grizzlies feast on salmon during spawning runs. This concentrated protein source creates the largest grizzly populations. A single bear might consume dozens of salmon daily, packing on fat reserves for winter hibernation. But here's what matters for our analysis. Grizzlies also scavenge. They'll steal kills from wolves, cougars, and other predators. They'll consume winter-killed carcasses. They're opportunistic feeders unwilling to pass up easy calories. Wolverines are even more opportunistic. They actively scavenge carcasses left by wolves, lynxes, and other predators. They follow wolf packs, waiting for opportunities to claim abandoned kills. But don't mistake them for pure scavengers. Wolverines hunt effectively. They take porcupines, squirrels, chipmunks, mice, rats, beavers, gophers, rabbits. They're capable of killing prey much larger than themselves: sheep, goats, even adult deer. Their nickname says everything: gluttons. Wolverines possess voracious appetites and defend food sources with insane aggression. This is where confrontations begin. A wolverine finds or kills prey. A grizzly detects the carcass. Both animals want the same meal. Neither wants to share. Something has to give. The psychology of intimidation. Before we analyze actual combat, we need to understand why these confrontations usually don't escalate to violence. Grizzlies are generally solitary except during mating season or when females raise cubs. They're not particularly territorial. Their ranges overlap with other grizzlies without constant conflict. They establish dominance hierarchies through occasional confrontations, but they avoid unnecessary fighting. Why? Because injuries are expensive. A broken limb means starvation. An infected wound means death. Even minor injuries reduce hunting efficiency. Smart predators avoid risks when alternatives exist. Grizzlies are powerful enough to kill virtually anything they encounter, but they're also intelligent enough to assess risk versus reward. Is this meal worth potential injury? Wolverines evolved to exploit this calculation. They weaponize intimidation. When confronting larger predators, wolverines don't retreat. They advance. They vocalize aggressively: growls, snarls, screams designed to project threat beyond their actual size. They arch their backs, bristle their fur, and display their teeth. Most importantly, they commit completely. There's no hesitation, no testing, no gradual escalation. Wolverines go from zero to maximum aggression instantly. This creates psychological pressure on larger predators. The grizzly knows it can kill the wolverine, but it also recognizes this small animal is willing to inflict injury. Those teeth and claws are real weapons. Even a 55-pound animal can cause damage. The grizzly performs a cost-benefit analysis. Is this carcass worth getting bitten? Worth having my eyes slashed? Worth risking infection? Often, the answer is no. The grizzly backs down, seeking easier meals elsewhere. This is the Wolverine's primary survival strategy. Make the cost of confrontation seem higher than the value of the reward. It works surprisingly often, but not always. Anatomy of a confrontation. So what actually happens when Wolverine and Grizzly meet over a contested carcass? Initial contact follows predictable patterns. The Grizzly approaches first, moving slowly but deliberately. It's confident in its size advantage and expects the smaller animal to flee. The Wolverine doesn't flee. It positions itself between the bear and the carcass, then begins its intimidation display. Aggressive vocalizations, fur bristling to maximize apparent size. Direct eye contact. The grizzly pauses. This isn't normal prey behavior. Prey runs. This animal is challenging a predator 10 times its size. If the wolverine is defending an existing kill, something it invested energy obtaining, it often charges. Not a token charge, a genuine attack, aimed at the grizzly's face and eyes. This is where Wolverine anatomy provides critical advantages. Their loose skin allows remarkable flexibility. When bitten or grabbed, Wolverines can twist within their own hide, turning to bite back. They're extraordinarily difficult to immobilize. Their teeth and claws, while small relative to the grizzlies, are still formidable. Wolverine teeth can puncture hide and flesh. Claws can slash across vulnerable areas like eyes, nose, and mouth. The grizzly weighs 15 times more than the wolverine. It possesses overwhelming physical advantages, but it's also calculating risk. Those wolverine attacks hurt. Even non-lethal injuries create problems. If the grizzly is merely opportunistic, passing by, not particularly hungry, it often chooses to leave. The meal isn't worth the hassle. But if the grizzly is hungry, persistent, and willing to accept minor injuries, the dynamics shift dramatically. When intimidation fails, let's examine what happens when the grizzly commits to combat. The size differential is absurd. 55 pounds versus 800 pounds. The grizzly weighs roughly 15 times more. It stands 3 times taller. Its paws are larger than the wolverine's entire head. Physics becomes insurmountable. A single full-force grizzly paw strike can break bones. Those 3 to 4 inch claws penetrate deep. The 1200 psi bite force can crush a wolverine's skull instantly. The wolverine's speed and agility provide some defensive capability. It can dodge initial strikes, dart beneath swipes, and attack from unexpected angles. Its low profile makes it a difficult target. But this is a war of attrition the wolverine cannot win. Grizzlies possess far greater stamina. They can sustain combat much longer. Each successful strike accumulates damage on the smaller animal. The wolverine's loose skin, while helpful for escaping holds, offers no protection against crushing force. Its teeth and claws, while dangerous to the grizzly's face and extremities, cannot inflict lethal damage to the bear's vital organs. Eventually, and it wouldn't take long, the grizzly would land a decisive blow. One solid bite to the spine, one crushing paw strike to the ribcage, one shake of the head while holding the wolverine in its jaws. Game over. The wolverine's ferocity keeps it alive only as long as the grizzly remains uncertain about commitment. Once the bear decides the meal justifies the risk, the wolverine's only smart option is retreat. And here's the thing, wolverines know this. They're aggressive, not suicidal. When confrontation escalates beyond intimidation into actual sustained combat, wolverines typically withdraw. They live to fight another day because they recognize when intimidation has failed and violence becomes inevitable. The bigger picture. So can a wolverine defeat a grizzly bear? The nuanced answer is, it depends what defeat means. If defeat means driving the bear away from a contested resource, then yes, Wolverines achieve this regularly. Their intimidation tactics succeed often enough to be evolutionarily advantageous. If defeat means surviving an encounter without serious injury, then yes again, Wolverines manage this through calculated aggression and strategic retreat. But if defeat means winning a fight to the death, the answer is definitively no. Physics determines outcomes when size differentials are this extreme. Yet the Wolverines' survival strategy isn't about winning death matches. It's about avoiding them entirely while still accessing resources that larger predators want. This strategy reveals something profound about evolutionary success. Raw power isn't everything. The ability to project threat disproportionate to actual capability creates survival opportunities. Wolverines succeed not by being the strongest, but by being the most unreasonable, by establishing reputations, by making larger predators think twice. In ecosystems where multiple predators compete for limited resources, aggression becomes currency. The Wolverine trades in that currency expertly. This is why they've earned legendary reputations among wildlife biologists and indigenous peoples who share their territory. Pound for pound, Wolverines might be the most formidable land mammals in North America. Not because they'd win every fight, but because they convince most opponents not to fight at all. In direct combat, the Grizzly wins through overwhelming size and power. But Wolverines rarely allow confrontations to reach that point. Their survival depends on intimidation, strategic aggression, and knowing when to retreat. They've mastered the art of appearing more dangerous than their size suggests. Sometimes, in nature's brutal mathematics, psychological warfare beats physical superiority. The Wolverine proves that ferocity, properly deployed, can compensate for almost any size disadvantage.